So this video is on Romanza, which that was the full version of Romanza for a classical guitar. So we're looking in the Christian guitar book on page 55 for Romanza, and we're talking about all of the autos, the rubato, vibrato, and legato, and staccato, and other autos. So this is kind of getting into playing beyond the page, because while this song's a little challenging, it's not that bad. I think it's actually easier to play than Almond was previous in the book. But in this kind of simplified version, intermediate version of Romanza, you get this part here. And the first thing we want to use is rubato, which is a stretching of the tempo of the song. It's a pulling and pushing where you are slowing down and speeding up. A good rubato, a good way to do a tasteful rubato where you don't go too far, where you slow down so drastically and speed up so much that it just seems incoherent. To think of it kind of like a rubber band. Wherever you stretch on the tempo, it gives back somewhere else. So there's some specific points that I like to do that in this song to kind of create a dramatic effect. So the first one is measure 4 into measure 5. I'm going to kind of, as we're climbing up these notes, we're going to kind of pull back a little bit on the tempo, slowing down slightly. But then when we get to the top of the mountain there and we get to the high A's, you kind of push through, like you're rolling down back on the hill to get to where you started from. So the idea of a good rubato is something like this from the beginning. So as I got to the top, I kind of rolled through those quarter notes a little fast to kind of catch back up. Not really recommended to do this, but just as a thought experiment, the idea would be is if somebody was playing to a metronome and playing it perfectly straight, and you were playing with your rubato by pulling back and pushing ahead on the tempo, you would both end the song at the exact same time. You're just not always directly with them. So that idea that you're never actually losing time is a good way to think about rubato, so that you don't end up just slowing the song down all the time and the song starts to feel like it's dragging on, and you lose that emotional feel you get when you have a good rubato. So the next thing is vibrato. Vibrato is something completely different. It has everything to do with tone, and it's the tone you get when you shake your finger. So. Right. So I mean, it's something that has to be practiced and developed, but I like to just experiment with it on this song and try it out. So it's probably the third finger is the easiest one to start it on. So the idea, imagine that your third finger is like kind of on like a seesaw, and it's rocking back and forth. So it's a little bit from the wrist, rocking back and forth. You want to keep your thumb on the back of the guitar. Don't go free. Some people were like, you don't have enough control when you do that. So keep your thumb on the back of the neck and let your finger just gently rock up and down. And once you get enough speed on it while still maintaining pressure, you hear that the fluctuation of the pitch a little bit. So here's without vibrato. Here's with it. One of the things that makes it sound so nice is it kind of sounds like the human voice a little bit. When we sing, we naturally, our voices have a slight vibrato to it, where the pitch kind of fluctuates. If you hear like the opera singers singing and they have that crazy vibrato, the guitar can kind of get that sound. And our ear naturally gravitates towards pitches that are changing. So the fact that you vibrato the melody notes means the melody notes are kind of always wavering a little bit, and then the listener picks up on those notes more because you naturally gravitate towards the note that's moving the most. So the vibrato helps bring out the melody. Now you don't want to or necessarily need to vibrato every single note where you're like. First of all, you have to play all of the notes on fretted strings because you can't vibrato open strings. But use vibrato to bring out key notes that you want to highlight. So maybe the 3 A's on the top of measure 5. And then the next spot I like to do a little vibrato and a little vibrato is on measure 4 of the second line. That F just kind of has that tension in it. Kind of helps sing through that melody. On the third line, it's also the 4th measure. So kind of highlighting again that tension that the C brings in. So between a little bit of rubato, slowing it down, a little bit of vibrato helps bring the melody note out. It really makes it come alive. On the 4th line, it's the last measure, G sharp, G, G sharp. And then on the second to last line, it's this descending line, this chromatic falling line. G sharp, G, F sharp. And then on the last line, I like to bring out the note D, B, A, right when the C sharp goes to D. Right. Another thing you can also do that makes the piece come alive, that's something that isn't written on the page, is to use breaking the chord. So breaking the chord is when you take 2 notes that are supposed to happen on the same beat, like a bass note and a melody note, like going back to the first line, measure 5. Instead of having the 2 A's ring at the same time like it's supposed to, separating them slightly, kind of like a flam on a snare drum where the second hit just comes immediately after the first one. So that can really, again, it's moving notes, it's going to highlight the note and make it stick out more. So that sounds like this. You get. Right, that little separation. That's the kind of, this is all the kind of stuff that you hear 2 people play the piece and you're like, I like that one, he played it better. And you're like, why? I don't know, he just played it better. It's all these little things that stack up that make it come alive. The last thing you want to think about is legato versus staccato. Legato is long and connected notes. There's 0 space between the notes. Staccato is the opposite, where you have lots of space between the notes. This song is all about legato, playing all the notes smooth and connected. means you're holding each note until the exact second where you want to play the next note. So this is kind of weird thing where you are playing the song slow, but your fingers still need to move fast so that the space between two notes is as small as possible. So the split second when it's time to play the next note, you hold out until it's just time to play the next one, and you move as quick as you can so you don't have something like... It's especially whereas if you have a couple notes in a row that are the same and you keep your finger down, so you get these nice, naturally long legatos. And then you get these staccato notes that come after it because you're not holding the notes. So it's something to think about that you might not realize that you need to hold the notes as long. So that is all of the octaves.